Now let's go a little bit deeper into JavaScript and understand the concept of scope. So what is scope? Scope is simply the limits in which a variable exists. So when I write some code, so I'm going to say var a is equal to some text over here. This variable exists in a scope. And since this particular code only has nothing in it, just one line of code, it's considered the global scope. A global scope is simply the outermost environment in which some code or variables exist. So over here, the definition of global scope is the outermost scope is called the global scope. So basically, if I want to create additional scopes within my code, one thing is called a functional scope. So inside, I'm going to create a function, call it first. And over here, I'm going to simply console.log, something. So, or actually create a variable where var a is equal to inside. And over here, I'm simply going to print the variable a. So this is also a variable a, and this is also a variable a. But since this line number 4 variable a exists inside the function, this is inside the scope of that function. So this variable on line number 1 is in the global scope or the outermost scope, and this particular variable, which is a different variable, yes, it happens to be the same name, but it's inside the function scope. So now if I run this particular function first over here, so first run this, save, I'm going to put my semicolons, save, and now refresh, I see the value of a is inside, because the variable, when it got to this particular code, it said, okay, what is the value of a? So it's going to look, the JavaScript engine is going to look inside its own scope to look for that particular variable. So it finds it, it says, oh yeah, the variable a exists, and the value is inside. So it prints it over here. Now, one more thing. Let's try to console.log the value of a over here. What do you think is going to happen now? Which line of code is going to execute first, and what is going to be the value? Let's take a look. So I refresh, and I get inside on line number 5, which is over here, and then some text on line number 9. Line number 9 got some text. So the way JavaScript engine works is the first thing it does, it recognizes all the variable and function declaration, and it hoists them, right? So over here it comes, it just reads all the code, does not execute it, but first comes in and says, oh, there's a variable a, I'm going to hoist it, just declare it. I'm going to create a variable a inside the scope and hoist it over here as well. So hoisting only works in the functional scope. So if there are multiple variables over here, var b and stuff like that, it's going to hoist it within this scope, all right? So scope of the function, or if it's outer environment, it's going to hoist it to the global environment. So it will hoist the variable a over here, or variable a over here, and this first function. And once it has declared all of these functions and variables, then it's going to start executing the code line by line. So it comes to line number 1 and says, okay, I'm going to assign the sum text value to variable a. Okay, sure. Then I'm going to come to line number 3. Oh, this is just a function which is defined. I do not need to run this function. So now it comes to line number 8 and says, okay, this first function needs to be called. So then it actually goes to line number 3 and starts executing line number 4. Now it does not come to line number 9. When it comes to line number 8, it says, okay, I need to run this function. So it's going to go to this function and start running it before it comes to line number 9. Make sense? So then it comes to line number 4 and says, okay, var a is equal to inside. Okay, I'm going to store that value and console.log a. And what is the value of a in this particular scope? It's inside. So it then prints this. And then when it finishes all the tasks in that particular function, which is first, then it comes to line number 9 and then says console.log a. And what is a in this particular scope? This is inside the global scope. So it says, oh, some text. So it prints some text. So that is the introduction to scope, global scope, and functional scope. A functional scope is any variables inside a function is inside the scope of that function. That's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to talk to you in the next, where we're going to learn more. Talk to you next.